Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm going to take a look at Voyager Linux. Voyager Linux is based on Ubuntu 22.10, and one thing I really find interesting about Voyager is their dual desktop setup here. So they have a Gnome and Xfce to choose from, and they're very non-intrusive with each other. They are separated really beautifully. To me, I find that really fascinating because that's kind of hard to get right if you're doing it yourself. And I think having Gnome and Xfce together to choose from is kind of cool. And given that it's based on Ubuntu 22.10, that means we are accessing the newest repos. Kinetic Kudu. As you know, Ubuntu Kinetic Kudu 22.10 has recently been released, so that's why you're seeing all these different releases come out now that are Ubuntu based. And of course you do have the LTS version available as well. And then if you scroll down here a little bit, then you can see all the different versions you can choose from. And of course we do have 22.04 LTS, but the star of the show today was just released on October 26, and that is Voyager 22.10. So I'm going to download this, and as you can see, it's going to be based on kernel 5.19, which is relatively recent, especially for Ubuntu. And then GNOME 43 plus the Xfce 4.16 desktop. That gives you great support for NVIDIA and Vega drivers, Firefox, Thunderbird, MiniTube, TV, LibreOffice, Box Voyager, and all that great stuff, Wine development, PC extension. So it looks like it's loaded up pretty well. I'm going to grab this thing. Let's get in here and take a look at it. Okay, so here we are. We are at the boot screen here for the Voyager Live Edition. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the enter key here and jump in. And let's see what we got. I'm guessing that we're going to probably get into the Ubiquity installer and give us a choice there, or to go into the live environment. I'm going to just get right in and go into the installer. However, if you want to test out the live environment, you can definitely do that, and you can even log out, press enter after you get to your login prompt, type in Ubuntu and go down to the little gear, and you can select the Xfce environment right there from the live CD as well, or ISO. So that is cool. But to save time, we're just going to get right into the install as soon as the Ubiquity installer shows up. Assuming that shows up. I'm kind of assuming it's going to. And okay, something's happening here, so I'm expecting something to change here any second now. Okay, we're seeing our Voyager screen, and there's my little spinner, and there's our installer. Cool. Here you can hit try Ubuntu if you want to go into the live environment, but I'm just going to get right into it, hit install Ubuntu, and this should launch our installer and get us started. By default it's showing English, so that's great. I'm going to hit that. And then here we want to go with normal installation and leave the download updates checked, and then I'm installing third-party software. That's always important if you want to have good compatibility with your Wi-Fi and other hardware, and have your media codecs as well. And then I'm going to just select erase disk, and this will destroy all the data on your disk. So if you do that, remember, it will destroy everything and start all over again. So here we go, and this is the easiest option when you're installing too, of course. So I'm going to hit continue here, and then I'm going to put in a username and choose a password. And if you like, you could log in automatically. I usually leave it at default. Active Directory is something you can use if you are on a Windows network that uses Active Directory, but I'm not, and you probably aren't either. But if you are, that's a nice, easy option. So that's all there is to it. Now we're off and running, and I'm going to let this install do its thing. I'm going to pause the video, and I'll be back. Okay, it's finished, and here we are. Our install is complete, so I'm just going to hit restart now, and I'm going to let it restart, and if everything went okay, we'll be in business. And here it looks like it's restarting. Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to remove my install medium and press enter, so I'll just do that. All right, now I think we're getting a restart here, and here's our Voyager screen, and a little bit of intro here, and it looks like we can skip all that, so I'm just going to hit that. If you have an online account, so it kind of gives you that choice. And then here we can improve our Ubuntu. I'm good with sending anonymous system info to Canonical to keep the project good. And location services are off by default. You can turn those on right here if you want, and that can come in handy if you like to do a lot of shopping and have your location detected automatically. If you're a little more paranoid, then just skip it. And then now it's showing us that we're ready to go. So that's our cool little intro screen. Even gives you an option to open up Ubuntu software right off the bat. So now we're at the login screen again, because I hit reboot by mistake. Yeah, I'm a putz. So we'll get logged back in here. All right. Nice. So here we got our Voyager background here, looking pretty. And we got a conky that just appeared on the desktop. I like that too. Very nice. Shows the time and date and some resource usage there, CPU and all that. And here we got our home folder sitting right here. So we are in the Gnome environment here, and this opens up our files, and I'm pretty sure that's probably files or Nautilus here, since we're in Gnome, or Gnome, however you want to pronounce it. And we're running Gnome 43, which is also the file version here for files. And then here we have our activities. And so if we go into activities, we can see our environment and our 4 desktops, which is pretty nice. And then here, of course, we got our launcher, and the launcher's got a nice traditional look. It's auto hovering as I go through it, so I like that right off by default. I think that is cool too. So it looks like they did a great job with the extensions here, and we even have our bottom panel and a top panel. But here on the bottom panel we have our editor, and it looks like a little bit of French there, I think, and notes, agenda, and then we have our private mode for Firefox, MiniTube, Good Vibes radio app, there's our software center, and then Voyager center, and then trash, and then again another launcher. This is launches the full screen Gnome launcher here, so you can see that and have easy access to. So that's familiar to most Gnome users. There's our extension manager and our extensions. And so a lot of things in here right off the bat, USB writer and so forth. That's nice to see in there. And we have LibreOffice, a document scanner, KeePass Xfce. That's great for keeping passwords, something I use all the time. There's a mapping, GIMP for photo editing, and terminal, of course. That's always important, at least for me. And then here we got more software. We got LibreOffice Suite. We have Draw, Math, PaTV, which is a nice video editor. Additional drivers, Cheese, which is a webcam app. Shotwell for screen captures. There's our settings, access, startup disk creator. So that's nice if you like to distro app and make startup disks. And then our utilities. Cool. And then if we click on the last dot, then we're over here, and it looks like these are all games here for the most part. Of course, we have our decomp editor, then our text editor, and I'm thinking that's probably text editor. Okay, yeah, so that's probably like a variation of gedit or something. If I remember right, Gnome kind of rebranded that, if I remember right, or something like that. I could be wrong. But anyway, going back to the last page there where we were before, I think it was the third dot. Yeah, we were on the last page. We also got a bunch of games in here too. And there's Ramina, that's great for remoting in. And there's Mines, Sudoku, Pacman, wow, Snake and Invaders. So it looks like they got some clones of some old arcade games. That's kind of cool. And then Greed, which I'm not sure what that is, Mahjong, Conky app, Power Statistics, and Xfce stuff. Yeah, that's an Xfce folder, but I'm not really quite sure how that relates to those apps, but it might be just containerizing those to keep them separate from the Gnome. Here's Pacman, so that's kind of cool. That's a kind of a simple remake of Pacman, and it looks like it's a console game, so that's kind of cool. They made that run in the terminal there. I wonder if they did how the Space Invaders one came out. And there it is. Wow, yeah, totally terminal based there. And it looks like they're using ASCII, upper ASCII characters for the... That's pretty clever, actually. They did a pretty cool job there. So I like that. I'm not hearing any sound, but that could just be me. But cool. Yeah. Well, I'll just let myself blow up here so I can get out of it real quick. But yeah. It looks like I just can't stop not getting blown up. Okay, sooner or later I gotta get blown up. Whoa, almost. It looks like this is a pretty easy level. Okay, well it got me that way anyway. It hit the ground. So cool. nInvaders, a Space Invader clone. So that's kind of entertaining. And then here we have our MiniTube. So that looks kind of cool too. It's like a YouTube app. So if I put a keyword in here like me, Jack Keeper, I think it'll pull up some of my videos, I'm thinking. And there they are. Wow. Nice. I like this guy. I don't know why, but maybe it's his bald head, but he's got a cool channel. So there's one of my videos playing. That looks like one of my older ones. That's an intro I used to use a long time ago, relatively. So that is cool. So this is really nice. It looks like a really easy way to get in there and just kind of watch YouTube videos right from within a desktop app. So that is nice. I've heard of this before, seen it, but I haven't really actually sat down and used it. But it really looks intriguing. I like the fact that that's in there by default, and also the Good Vibes player. Then we have our Bon Voyage and then Trash. And let's take a look at our software. So here's our software center, and this is a GNOME software that we're running. I can tell right off the bat that's what it is. And if we go in here, we can look at our update preferences, and they're both activated by default, which I like. And then if we go and take a look at our software repos, we can go in here and see that by default, we got all the good stuff, and our proprietary drivers and devices are also activated because we selected that during install. So this is where you can go and select different things, and if you want to add any more, this would be the place to do it, of course. And then these other tabs and developer options, so you can set it up for developer mode if you want. So you can put pre-released updates in there, things that are proposed to the Kinetic Kudu project there. So you can really have a lot of room here to kind of mess around. If you're not really sure how to mess around in there, then I would just leave it at defaults. Let's do a search here. Let's do the old standby Inkscape. And I'm thinking, coming from the Ubuntu repositories, it's probably not going to be 1.2, but let's see what version it is. I'm going to guess 1.1.2 maybe. And that would be the DEB, the Debi executable file. Yeah, so that's 1.1.2. And if we click on it, we can see the details. And here you can install it, but it's also showing that this is the Ubuntu right from the repos. But if you select here, you can choose from a flat hub, and that would give you the latest, greatest. And then you got your snap versions, which would also give you the latest. And then, wow, they even got a beta version in snap that's available. That's kind of cool. I don't know if I would find that in Arch, really. Like from the AUR, maybe. I guess I would, but yeah, that's surprising that I would find that here. That's cool. So I might just download that just for fun. So that's 1.3, and I haven't even looked at 1.3, so I'm going to log in here and just download this. And I think that's cool that you can get a snap of a beta version of Inkscape here. So that is neat. Of course, when you're using beta software, you got to realize that when something's in beta stage, it's probably not going to be perfect. When you download a beta software, you want to be sure that you understand that everything may not be perfect. You could run into some bugs. Ooh. So there we are. And let's see if it showed up in our menu right away. And it did, so that's good. I'm going to click on that. So I just like to make sure that the snaps do appear right away. I've seen in some distros where they didn't, and then you had to log out and log back in to get them to show up, but not the case here. And here we can set our dark theme. So I'm going to do that for this app because I kind of like Inkscape in a dark theme. And then here I'm just going to select a video template. I kind of like the 720p template. And there we go. So wow, looking good for the most part, except I'm not seeing any icons there on the edges. It looks like there's just placeholders for them. So we're probably not past the icon stage yet of development. But if I go into about here, see, draw unstably. I like that. That's cool. And it does prominently display that we're in development for 1.3-dev. But cool, this is kind of a nice way to get a little sneak peek, even though you can't see any of the icons there. Probably in a few days or so, those might just kind of appear. But this is a nice way to get a little sneak peek if you're into testing software and so forth. So that is kind of cool. And then if we go into our settings, I just want to go over here just for fun and change my icons. So I'm going to go into appearance. I just want to see if the icons maybe work with something else. I'm not really sure what we're running as a default. And actually, I'm in the wrong spot. If I want to change icons, I think I got to go into tweak. But wow, there's a lot of background since we're here. But anyway, I'm going to go up here. And I'm going to just open up tweak here. And then I think it would probably be under appearance. And then here we got icons. And it looks like maybe GNOME was selected by default. So what if I change it to something else? Like Humanity Dark. And it changed their icons below, but not in the Inkscape. So yeah, that's just the beta thing. So it's not really looking for any particular type of icon, but we can do add Weta. If it doesn't see that, it's not going to see anything. So yeah, it's still like that. It's not anything to do with an icon theme. At least that would be my first assumption right off the bat. So I'm just going to go back in here and select GNOME again, kind of get back to our default icons. There we go. Much better. So now we got our dark theme. I turned on the dark theme when I was in there, so I think I might have had the video paused when I was in there, but I did click the dark theme button. So that looks kind of cool. Let's take a look at our backgrounds. So it looks like we have a pretty decent selection of backgrounds here. There's where I selected the dark button there when I was in appearance. Let's take a look at, that's a pretty nice background there. I kind of like that. Real high res. So it looks like they got some good quality. And there's our kudu. Kudu, the African gazelle or something. I don't know what you call those. But it's a type of deer, I guess. And so that's kind of cool. I like that, actually. That's a really cool background. I think I might keep that. Very cool. All right. So anyways, here we got our display settings. And if you want fractional scaling, like if you have a HDMI big TV set that you're hooked into, or maybe multi monitors with different sizes, fractional scaling might come in handy. And so that'll let you go above 100% in different fractions, like 125 and so forth. So that's nice and easy to get to. And then here's our Ubuntu desktop settings, and by default we have a normal size for our icons, and then you can position them bottom right. Not quite sure what that's referring to, because that kind of looks like it's in the middle. But yeah, when I change those, that icon anyways is not changing at the moment, so not really quite sure what that does. But I don't use GNOME all the time. Here we can change panel mode, so then instead of having a plank of some sort, you know, like a dock, then we got this big panel, so it'll stretch it right out. And then of course you can rearrange your icons if you like. You could put the launcher over on the other side. Then we have our icon size adjust, so if you shrink that, then our panel icons just kind of shrink, or a dock now. And then you can make them huge if you want. But I kind of like the default. I think the default is just right. It works for me. And then our other settings like position, so we have it on the bottom right now, but you could also move that over to the side or up on top. Here's our dock settings, where you can add additional things. You can show trash or not show trash, but I like having the trash, so I'm going to keep that on. But that's where you can get rid of the trash can if you don't like it there for some reason. And then all these other settings, multitasking applications. Here we can turn on and off notifications for your apps, kind of like you would in your phone. So that's kind of cool. All the normal GNOME settings here. Got location services, so if you didn't turn them on during startup, that's where you can turn them on there, or vice versa. And then our file history and trash, so these are more privacy settings. So if you don't want your file history showing up, you can turn them off there. And you can even automatically delete your trash content after X amount of time. And then we got auto screen lock, our different power settings. Usually I crank those settings up, typically for myself, so the delay is longer. And then you can turn lock screen off if you wish right there. And that's good to know if the lock screen is annoying to you. And then here we have our online account. So if you didn't do anything during startup and then you just changed your mind, that's where you do it. Then here we have our sharing settings. So if you want to share your files, maybe if you're on a network, or if you're going to remote desktop into your computer or somebody else's, you'll want to turn on sharing here. And then you can share your different media folders here if you wish. And then wired connection would be your network. So that's what's active right now. So you'd want to turn that on as well. And then click the plus button if you want to add a specific folder. So if you want to have access to a specific folder over a network or remote desktop, then you can choose it there. I just chose downloads. And then you can turn on remote desktop there and allow people to remote in as well. If you don't turn it on, you can still share your folders on a network if you're on a network. Our sound settings here, we can go click. And then we got our string sound, I guess, and then swing and hum. Click default. And then onward to our keyboard settings, and here I pretty much keep these all default. I don't typically mess with those. Printer settings if you want to install a printer. Then your accessibility, your users, if you want to give yourself an avatar, you can unlock here, authenticate, and then you can change your user settings and password and automatic login and all that. But your user avatar you should be able to just click on anyway. And let's see what I can relate to. I think that bass there, that electric bass, looks cool. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm going to use that. And then again, if you want to tweak any of those other settings or add a user, simply unlock it. And then here we got our default applications. So we got Firefox web browser, Thunderbird for email, calendar, music, videos. These are all your default players. So if you install something else like a VLC player, you can select it there under videos and make that your default. So that's kind of how you do that. Our date and time. So again, I would go with the defaults here. Time format, if you like AM, PM better, you can do that. Personally, I prefer 24 hours. And then about. When we go into about, we can see more information about our system. So here it's showing our device name, how much RAM we got, processor, graphics, running Ubuntu 22.10 on a 64-bit, and we're also using Wayland. So the windowing system here is showing that we're running Wayland by default, so I didn't know that. That's cool, as opposed to Xorg, and everything seems to be working fine. The Wayland is not really trashing anything. I just opened up my tweaks again. I'm going to jump here into appearance, and let's take a closer look at this. I want to take a closer look at our appearance here, and look at all the themes we got to choose from. So this is nice here, right off default. And so we got like red grass, but there's our orange, black cursors. So yeah, we got an orange accent now. So now we got a white cursor, and so I kind of like that. I like that better than the other cursor, which was a little too big for my taste. And then here we got all these shell themes here. Wow, Voyager white served dark. So that kind of changed our theme, rounded off the panel on the bottom. That's cool. And then yarrow bark. So if we go with that, then we get like a bark color. And Yarrow Bark Dark. Nice. That doesn't change the actual launcher, so I'm not sure exactly what that's affecting directly. Apparently just the panel down below, maybe. I'm going to open up our file manager and see if we get some kind of effect over there. So I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head what that's corresponding to. So we'll go in our home folder here and just select something else and see if something changes over there. And not really seeing any changes. It looks like it's mostly just on the panel down there, the little highlighters along your icons. It seems to be changing the color down there, but that's kind of all I'm seeing there. Then of course our background image and lock screen image. And then here we have our font settings, our keyboard and mouse, so you can even set it for Emacs input if you're really into Emacs. And then our left super key will bring up our activities menu by default, but you can change it to right. And then all those I think I would just kind of keep all by default. And then here's our clock settings. So in our top bar you can see our clock is over here, and we can add things like seconds to the clock or the weekday. We can put that in there on our calendar. So now it's showing Sunday, October 30th. And then seconds, we can turn that on, and now you can see the seconds going there. So that's cool if you like having seconds being counted. And then we come over here, and here's our title bar settings. So this is nice too. Here you can turn off your maximize and minimize buttons if you don't want those there. Personally, I like all three of them there, but you can also put them over on your left side so it's more Mac-like, and I really like that. It's really simple to move those over, so that's a really nice feature, something I like in GNOME. And then here we have our more Windows settings, which I like kind of just the way they are. And then down here, I'm just going to go into our extensions because we've seen our tweaks, but let's see what's in our extension manager. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video here, we got nice use of extensions. So it's using the Arc menu, which is this guy right here, for an extension. And also you just click on the little gear associated with Arc menu if you want to change any settings in there. So this is where you would do that if you want to tweak your menu or any items that are up there on the top panel. And so we got other things like your clipboard history, burn my windows. Oh, that's kind of a cool effect. I think that like makes fire when you close your window, if I remember right. So if I close it, then yeah, wow, very cool. I like that effect. That's actually something I think is really cool. I might just keep that. If you minimize it, it'll just minimize, but it affects it when it closes, so it just kind of burns your window into a puff of non-smoke. And then we got our Compass magic lamp effect, so that's kind of like KDE-like. We can just, when we minimize and maximize, it does that magic lamp. And then our Compass Windows effect, see, right now it's just rigid, but then when we turn it on, we get this wobbly. So it's kind of like the wobbly windows or the Compass that a lot of people in Xfce like to use. There's our dash to dock, and so that is something you can use as opposed to the dock setting that we're using now. And then here's our settings for dash to dock if you like using that and then tweaking it. However, I wouldn't recommend activating this when we're running the Ubuntu dock extension because they'll probably conflict. So now let's jump out of here and let's take a look at our Xfce environment. Now that we got a good look at the GNOME, so I'm going to just close that, and that fire effect is cool. I just like that. I'm easily entertained, what can I say? So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to hit log out, and then we'll just jump in to our Xfce environment and see what that's like. So first we just click on Toadwick, and then I scooch out of the way for a second, and let's do that again. So I click on Toadwick, and then you can see the gear over here appears. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to select, here you can use the Ubuntu Xorg version of GNOME if you want Xorg, but we're going to go into Xfce, of course, and then I'm going to log in, authenticate, and you can see my bass guitar up there. Well, technically not my guitar, but you know, my choice. And here we are in the Xfce Desktop. So wow, this is really nicely laid out. I like this. This is cool. So here we got our default background again, and then a bunch of stuff on the top panel, and here's the bottom panel again, and so I'm thinking that's probably Plank. And then over here we got another panel with more stuff, and these might just be all Xfce panels, but I really like the way they're all themed out. And here we got different utility stuff here, our Voyager Center, and it looks like some kind of utility where you can get easy access to different things maybe. And then our net settings. So that's kind of cool. I like how that's laid out. And then of course we got our conky again on the desktop. And I'm not quite sure what this does. It looks like it brings up user settings. So easy access to user settings. Very cool. And then over on this side, looks like info. So that brings up a conky real quick in our console. Nice. So here we can see our system information. Not a conky. I said conky. I mean NeoFetch. And so here we got our shell version 5.22, 5.19 kernel, Xfce 4.16 running XF Window Manager. Our theme is Desert Teal Light 40. Very cool. Then we're running GNOME icons, Xfce Terminal, even shows our font, CPU, GPU, and memory. So it looks like our memory usage right now is about 941 megs. Let's see if HTOP concurs, and no HTOP, so I'm going to install it real quick. So we'll do sudo apt install HTOP, and then I'll just authenticate. And then it should find it in the repos here. And there we go. Piece of cake. So I'm going to type in HTOP, and then it should launch, and there we go. We got our HTOP. Nice. I'm just going to expand that, enlarge it a little, and showing 915 megs on the resource. So that's actually a little better than I was showing in the NeoFetch, and that's pretty decent. So I'm just going to Control-C here real quick and get back into the console. So there's our HTOP, and I'll just kind of close that out. And then down here we have our Thunar file manager, and then over here we got our calendar. That's a shortcut for a nice separate calendar app, and that is cool. And what's this guy? VBox or Box. So this looks like an application to kind of give you access to different tweaks, it looks like. So that's a PNG file. So these must be different PNGs. I actually didn't see what that corresponded to, but that's a thing. And then we have our weather app. I like that. Then there's our wine config. So here you can tweak your wine settings, and this gives you a lot of easy shortcuts to get into those different areas. Nice. There's our conky control if you want to mess with your conky over here. And so there you can open up conky management, your conky lists and so forth, your auto start settings. So really nice, and make it real easy to get to a lot of these things here. And then here you can set your theme modes, dark mode, day mode, and color icon panels. I think that applies to these side panels here. So we got like panel lateral, mobility 1, mobility 2. I don't really know what those correspond to, but it looks like you can kind of tweak the color accents on all these different aspects. Some of those calendar, logo, and so forth look like they correspond to some of the top bar settings. Mobility 1, let's change something to red and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like it changed over here on the left-hand side. So we got some red icons there now, and didn't affect anything else. So mobility 1 must be that left-hand menu. So now they're violet. So yeah, definitely it was corresponding there. So that must be mobility 1. So I'm assuming mobility 2 must be on the other side maybe. So let me click something like maybe green and see what changes. And so it's still over on the left side. So apparently mobility 1 and 2 is like split in half on this one panel. Okay, cool. I like that. They go together well too. Okay, now I just hit panel lateral, and that appears to be the right hand panel. So that changed those to violet. Cool. Then we got private Not sure what that's related to. I think something up there on the top bar. And then our terminal, probably that little indicator up there on the top bar. So I just clicked green, and it's green. So it probably corresponds to that. And I really like this drop-down terminal right there too. That's actually quite cool. Let me change that to violet. And then you can see our drop-down indicator is violet. So yeah, you can really kind of tweak down here. And the drop-down terminal, very nice. Real nice feature. And then your search, so I guess you can colorize your search bar, which is up by the terminal indicator. And then here's our XfDashboard. So this is really sharp. I like that XfDashboard effect. Very nice. So this could be something, if you need a hobby, you can go in here and explore all these and kind of see what they all correspond to. Looks like you can just kind of tweak and play around in there, and I don't think you can really hurt anything by tweaking stuff. It's just kind of changing colors. So that is cool. And then there's our system info. Kind of brings up the Neo fetch again, and I guess you can change more settings there. So a lot of stuff. And then we have this P4 arrow. Don't really know what that does. And we got an arrow there, so I don't know. That may have something to do with the different desktops. Here we got our language indicator, and then our power strip if you want to log out or restart. And then of course our calendar Xfce accessible up there. And then here's our audio settings, easy access, very nice. And you can also open up your audio mixer from here too if you need to do some finer tweaking there to set your in and out and so forth. And here you can show your manager, your GNOME ENCFS manager, edit connections for your network connections, your language settings, notifications. You can go do not disturb if you don't want to be disturbed by notifications. Handy if you're doing presentations, I guess. And then here's our sticky notes app. So that's kind of handy if you like sticky notes. You got easy access right there. And then of course our search, so we can go in here and just do a quick search, like I'm assuming Inkscape will show up here that we installed in our Gnome environment, and it did, no problem. So there we go, Inkscape 1.3. Cool. And that opened up, so I'm just going to close that because we already been down that road. And that's our window for showing our open app. And then here's our Whisker menu. So that's how it's set up by default. And we got our categories over on the right. And of course, if you want to adjust any of that stuff, we can right click over the icon, select properties, and then jump into behavior. And I like to switch categories by hovering. So that's kind of the first thing I would do. And then here you can change your layout. By default, it looks like it's showing it as a list or tree. And here we go. So it's hovering, nice, and changing. But I kind of like the categories on the other side, so I'm going to select position categories next to panel button. That'll kind of reverse our categories, which I like to do. So now if we go up here, we can see our categories on the left hand side, and for me that's more comfortable. And then if you want to make it look even more modern, we can go over to our general tab. We can go here. You can see it's by tree by default right there, which is pretty similar to the list. But if we go icons, then when we scroll over, we're going to see icons there. And to me, that just has a little bit more of a modern feel. So I think I'm going to stick with that. If we go to list, I don't really see a lot of difference here between the list and the tree, although there's probably a subtle difference I'm missing. But I kind of like the icon settings there, so I'm going to kind of tweak it for that. Cool. And here you can see the Inkscape is showing up in our menu. And I also notice when we go into the settings here, you don't see the extension manager and all that with GNOME, so it's really separated nice. We don't have the GNOME stuff really bleeding over in any significant way. So they did a great job of separating this. I'm opening up our software center. I'm thinking this is GNOME software as well, but it's going to kind of populate a separate metadata in the Xfce session. So here we go, and we got our GNOME software, and that's all looking good. And again, this would all be configured the same way it was in Gnome session there. Very good. And then there's our private browsing session for Firefox, MiniTube, mousepad. So essentially the same items. And then we got Gnome Web, I think that is. Typically Gnome Web is not something I prefer. I'd rather just kind of use Firefox. So I'd probably just come up here and right click on Firefox under Internet there. Select Add to Panel and hit Add. That's panel 1. I think that's on top actually. Yeah, it went on top. So I'm going to go back and just remove that. I did a right click there. And then let's do that again and select panel 2. So right click, panel 2, add. There we go. Now we got it down there. Cool. All right. And I kind of like to move that. So I'm going to right click, select move, and then just kind of drag over maybe right there next to the Gnome Web. And then right click on this guy and remove it. And yes to remove, or just remove. Click. And then that should disappear, I think. Or it'll remove the whole panel. No, I think it'll just remove the icon. So I'll right click, remove, and then remove the launcher. So there we go. And nice. So we'll close that. That looks better. I kind of like having the Firefox there. And again, you can open the private mode there, and that'll give you private browsing on Firefox. Here we go. Cool. So that's working good. And then there's our weather app. I never did actually click on that and open it. So looks like it's Malstroit. I don't really know where that is, but it looks like somewhere a little cool because it's only about 10 degrees centigrade right now, apparently. Oh, and kind of a cool week. 15. And then our XfDashboard. If we go up into settings, let's go into appearance and see what kind of choices we got. Wow, a lot of choices here for themes and styles. Wow. So by default we're using this desert teal, but change to dark, and I like the dark even better. That kind of fits more with my taste. Cool, but look at all these choices. This is great. It actually seems more flexible here in the Xfce with these themes, so this is kind of cool. There's our Mojave Dark. Nice setting there. That gets it even darker. Then we got sunrise. Wow, blinding. And then that's the dark version. It looks like it's got 4 sunrises, so I'm thinking that that's probably the same light version and dark. Maybe with an orange highlight. Then we got white sur dark. Cool. And light, of course. And then Yaru bark, which is a bark color. It's kind of a cool greenish color there. And there's a dark version of it, kind of an olive green, I think. Then we got Yaru magenta, olive dark. So I guess that's the official olive, and I like that color actually. Impression green, and purple dark, and red for the dark theme. And of course these all have corresponding light versions as well. Then we have sage and Viridian. Viridian's kind of a nice color too, actually. Very nice. Maybe I'll go with red on the accent. I like the red with the black there. That's cool. Now we're in our icons, and lots of icons to choose from. Let's try Yaru bark. And that kind of gives it a kind of a camouflage green. There's a purple or magenta. Then we have our olive. I like the olive. I'm kind of leaning that way now. That looks great with the red, I think. And then we have our Prussian green and our purple. Purple looks good. And then we got our red with red, which works, but I'm kind of liking the olive to kind of break it up a little bit. And they seem to go together, so I'm going to go with that. And then here you can change your font settings if you like to mess with fonts. I like the Ubuntu fonts, so they're cool. Then here we have, this is in French, but this is our settings here for our avatar and so forth. So you can select here and get a default. It looks like we have more choices. Cool. And that looks like a space shuttle or something. And then there's the penguin. I can relate to that. I'm gonna get you, Batman. Yes. So yeah, I can penguin out. Even though that was a horrible imitation. So we'll hit apply there. And so here, yes, well, it looks like we all got pretty much the standard Xfce settings here for the most part. There's our desktop settings and there's our panel settings. So you can go in here and just tweak your panel right there. You can add items or remove. So anything that corresponds up here that you don't want to have, you can remove. Our whisker menus on the end, those are our window buttons. And here we got our clock, which is right there. And we can move our items just by clicking these up and down arrows, and then they kind of move around on your panel, depending on where you click. And at the end here, we got this power strip, keyboard layouts, and so forth. Let's add something. Oops, not there though. So I accidentally added a panel. Don't want to do that. I want to go down here and click add at the bottom, and then this will let you add in different items from the list here. And so let's put in show desktop, and let's just add that in, and by default it put it all the way down there at the end, which is actually where I want it. But if I wanted to move it, I could just use the up and down arrows, but I like it right there actually. So I'm going to keep it there, and when we click on that, then it just minimizes everything that's open. Click it again and they come back. So there we go. That's how easy it is to add an item to the panel. Then here's our XfDashboard settings. So this is kind of cool. I guess we can change our settings here on the XfDashboard, which is nice. And wow, a lot of themes to correspond to it too. So this is our default theme, and that's what we see when we click up here on the left here. And we see this, and we have kind of orange accents with dark colors, but if we want to change our theme, I guess we just select one of these. And there's XfDashboard search. Cool, green accents. That kind of moved the menu over on the side. I like it. So this is really pretty versatile. And there's a mint setting and a dark setting. So if we click up here on the XfDashboard, now we can see we got a panel over on the left. Cool. And then here, Voyager search, that looks like it gives you some green accents. And it does, and puts your panel back on top, or a search panel anyway. So that's nice. Search bar, I guess you might call it. So this is really nice. I like how you can kind of theme this XfDash. Wasn't thinking you could do that, so that's nice. And here it is again with another left-hand panel. And a search. Very nice. Really cool. And then again, back in our settings, we got KeePassXC settings, Startup Disk Creator. We can access it right in here from the settings panel as well. Really nice. So if you want to create a startup disk from an ISO file, you can easily do it. And those are kind of your settings, but it's available in the Whisker menu for easy creation of a disk on your USB stick. And then here we got our right-click settings, and we can actually go to our desktop settings right from here, and we can change wallpaper. So if you want to look at some more wallpaper, wow, here in the Xfce session, there's a ton of wallpaper. Holy cow. I wasn't expecting this. Wow, nice sharp background. A lot of choices, a lot more than in the Gnome setting. I'm liking that. Voyager branded desktop. That's really cool. There's a nice one. Cool. A surfer dude. And there's somebody staring at some kind of board with words on it. That's kind of nice. All the blur effect. And you got the street, the highway, generally cool artwork. Just so many choices. Man, I could be in here for days just changing wallpaper. What a collection. This is really impressive. Something totally unexpected. And all kinds of variety, from photos to artwork. Nice. Cool pastel colors in there. And then different variations. And then we got more artwork. Just a ton of cool things. Nice drawing. There's some kind of anime dude. AD for short. And I like that, kind of the blurred background. And then another anime dude kind of on the prowl there, and there's an anime girl doing some kind of karaoke with a map in the background. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And then nice marine background there, a polar look with some horses running, and that's actually a pretty good shot of the sky there. That's pretty cool. A lot of those space kind of backgrounds are kind of grainy, but that one's actually pretty good quality. And that one is gorgeous too. Looks like a Japanese setting there. And then a selfie dude, all kinds of variations. This looks pretty nice actually, just a simple gradient blur. I actually kind of like that. Just so many. I don't know what to settle on. I'm just going to choose one because there are so many choices. That's kind of cool too. A little bit too red maybe, but I do like that. And I like that too. It's got the brand on it there, the Voyager logo. Cool. And Linux Freedom Community Ubuntu Debian Xfce. Beautiful scene there. And a dude with a camera. And somebody with an umbrella. Skateboard. I like it. And there's a cool scene. I like the blur background in Wallpaper. I kind of think those are always cool effects. And wow, I like that too. Piano keyboard. Lots of color. But maybe a little too busy with my icons. They kind of disappear. But if I wasn't using icons, this actually looks pretty nice. Again, you got kind of the blurred background. And to me, that kind of works for wallpapers. So I think I'm going to go with that. That is cool. And then here we got our other settings like menus and icons. So here we can adjust our icon settings here on the desktop, and your size, and then your icon type, which I probably wouldn't change. And then top vertical is by default, which is your column settings. But you can also go horizontally. So it's nice you can do that. You hit arrange icons. It lets you know that it's going to change your icons around before you actually do it. And then you can, if you want something a little different, you can even put them down at the bottom or bottom left and right. So a lot of choices. Typically, I just like the traditional up and down there in the upper left. And then we got our show icons on only your primary display, or you can show hidden files. Single click to activate. And then down here, our default, we can turn on our trash if you want to see the trash. Looking good. So there you go with the icon settings. Wow, you know, Xfce is really nice on this. And there we have more right-click settings to choose from there. So a lot of choices. Like I was saying, Xfce is just such a great choice on this desktop. I think I kind of like it better than the Gnome. Of course, I've always liked Xfce, so maybe I'm a little partial. But I have to say, this Voyager Linux is really cool. Typically, I use Arch-based distros because I just need a ton of software. I need lots of variety and up-to-date stuff to choose from. But mainly I need the variety to be able to access the AUR and just get anything I want. But I'm telling you, Ubuntu is actually way up there on one of my favorite distros. And for other people, I typically do install Ubuntu type distros because they really work great for most people, and not everybody's a power user like me. If you're not a power user, it doesn't really matter if you use Arch or Ubuntu or Fedora. You just need something that works, and that's all that matters. And what desktop you use is a matter of taste, whether it's Xfce, KDE, GNOME. Everybody has different tastes in desktops, and desktops are really where your environment has the biggest impact, more so than with a distro. But I think this 22.10, and I always like being more cutting edge on Ubuntu, so I like these interim releases better than I do the LTS for me personally. But again, if I was setting this up for someone else, or even for some company that wanted to use Linux, I think Ubuntu LTS is a great choice as well, because you got more stability, software that's more consistent with the repos, yet you still have the snap options if you need latest and greatest, like maybe with a web browser, which is already a snap by default anyway. I really love what Voyager has done with these sessions. They got Gnome looking just right. That's the way I like Gnome. I like having desktop icons, I know, and having easy access to the panel at the bottom that's always displaying. I don't have to go and hit a key. So I really like the way Gnome is tweaked in the Ubuntu and by Voyager, and the cool apps that are available on the bottom panel, the extras like our YouTube app there and the radio app and so forth. So really nice. And Xfce is just configured by default, just over the top. I just love the fact that they got panels on every side of the screen for easy access to stuff, and they're beautifully themed, and their color utility, their change accents, really just kind of gives you an extra edge over tweaking color. I love that too. And a gazillion wallpapers. Wow! You just can't go wrong with their Xfce setup. To me, it's just ideal. I love it. I'd like to have a Voyager version of Arch. Wow, it would be irresistible. Yes, A+, double thumbs up on this Voyager distro and the way they themed everything. And for me, if I were to use Voyager, I would just stay right here in Xfce. I feel like I'm right at home. I just moved into an apartment that's really comfortable and already furnished. It's great. So with that, again, I give this a double thumbs up. And I hope this review was helpful. If it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.